Welcome, rational thinkers and champions of evidence-based reasoning, to the Free of Faith podcast. This is the place where we dare to peel back the comforting but opaque layers of faith-based claims and expose their logical shortcomings. Today's topic demands a bit of cognitive focus. Does the morality of the Bible reflect the character of an unchanging God, or the ever-evolving norms of human culture? Let's use structured reasoning to break down this issue. If the Bible had actually been inspired by an eternal, unchanging divine nature, we would expect to find a coherent and consistent moral code throughout its pages. However, we see the opposite. There are substantial shifts in moral directives, often without explanation, suggesting that these teachings may be culturally contingent rather than divinely anchored. Consider the drastic changes in how marriage is portrayed across different parts of the Bible. In the Old Testament, figures like Abraham, Jacob, and David maintain multiple wives and concubines, without rebuke from God. Polygamy appears not only tolerated, but in some cases, normalized for those in positions of power. Yet by the time we reach the New Testament, there is an emphasis on monogamy, especially in church leadership, and Jesus speaks of marriage as a union between one man and one woman. Why this shift? If marriage were grounded in eternal moral law, wouldn't it remain consistent across these texts? The Bible's stance on divorce is similarly incoherent. In Deuteronomy, Mosaic law allows a man to divorce his wife for reasons as vague as finding something indecent about her. This vague wording opens the door to interpretation, leading to varying applications of the law. However, in the New Testament, Jesus offers a much stricter view. In Matthew, he declares that divorce is only permissible in cases of sexual immorality, and even then, remarriage is considered adultery. Meanwhile, the Apostle Paul seems to soften this stance, allowing divorce if an unbelieving spouse chooses to leave. These inconsistencies leave followers grappling with conflicting standards. Should divorce be broadly permissible, limited to cases of infidelity, or determined by situational factors like religious compatibility? The Bible offers no clear, unified answer. Remarriage after divorce is another area of ambiguity. While Jesus' statements in the Gospels strongly suggest that remarriage constitutes adultery, other parts of the New Testament offer more nuanced perspectives. For example, Paul's instructions imply that remarriage might be acceptable under certain conditions, particularly if a spouse dies. The lack of clarity has led to centuries of debate among theologians and church leaders. If this moral framework were divinely guided, why would it be so open to conflicting interpretations? A recent survey of those in Christian leadership, called Christian Thought Survey, reveals stark disunity on moral questions, despite these leaders all invoking the very same Bible for their moral calculus. This lack of precision and subsequent disagreement undermines the notion of an objective, God-given moral code. Objective moral laws should be clearly defined and universally applicable, yet biblical morality is anything but. Ambiguities around key life decisions such as marriage, divorce, and remarriage have real-world consequences. Individuals and communities have interpreted these texts differently, often leading to legalistic disputes, social ostracism, or even violence against those who fail to conform to a given interpretation. If God's will were truly revealed in these texts, we would expect far greater clarity on issues that profoundly shape human relationships. Let's outline this through rigorous syllogistic reasoning. An unchanging divine moral code would present consistent definitions and instructions across time. Yet the Bible demonstrates significant changes and contradictions on issues like marriage, divorce, and remarriage. Therefore, these directives cannot stem from an unchanging divine standard. Here's another syllogistic argument. Objective moral laws must be precisely defined to avoid misinterpretation. Biblical moral directives on core life matters are ambiguous and inconsistently applied across different contexts. Therefore, these directives do not meet the standard of objective moral laws. Faith often attempts to resolve these contradictions by appealing to mystery. Believers argue that divine morality operates on a higher plane, beyond human logic and reason. But this response is both evasive and intellectually unsatisfying. Imagine using this rationale in any other domain. If a legal system issued contradictory rulings and excused them by claiming the law was too complex for human understanding, it would lose all credibility. We expect laws, whether divine or human, to be coherent, consistent, and accessible to those expected to follow them. This appeal to mystery also raises further questions. If God designed humans to think rationally, why would He reveal a moral code that defies rational analysis? Faith asks us to accept these contradictions, yet reason demands better. If a belief system fails to provide clear, consistent answers to life's fundamental questions, it loses its claim to authority. Let's bring in another perspective: the selective application of moral principles within the Bible. Certain behaviors are condemned in one context, but celebrated in another. Rahab's deception is praised because it serves God's plan, while dishonesty is generally prohibited in other parts of Scripture. This inconsistency undermines the claim that biblical morality offers a universal standard. Instead, it suggests a morality shaped by situational needs, a hallmark of human cultural development, rather than divine revelation from a God with a coherent moral system. If this conversation has sparked some questions or even some discomfort, that's a good thing. Questioning is the first step toward clarity. Don't settle for easy answers or platitudes. Dive deeper, explore further, and demand evidence. Head over to Free of Faith to read the full article and join the discussion. Let's keep this conversation going, because the pursuit of truth doesn't stop at questioning. It's about finding answers that actually make sense. Thank you for tuning in to the Free of Faith podcast, where we expose the logical failings of faith and celebrate the clarity that comes with reason. Until next time, stay skeptical, stay curious, and remember, rationality always outperforms faith. Engage reality, and I'll see you soon.